Just a heads up for the kiddos out there, this video will contain occasional coarse language and some sexual content, so you have been warned. Minors beware. What's up guys, it's Haim Productions here with another Tsugumomo video, and judging by the title, today's topic is what is Tsugumomo and why should you give a damn about it, and by extent, read it. But real quick before I dive into a quick synopsis of the story of Tsugumomo, you may be wondering, just what exactly is a Tsugumomo? Well, a Tsugumomo is an object that, having been passed down for generations, develops a will and consciousness of its own through slowly being fed its owner's spiritual power. And eventually, mind you, the process taking multiple generations of families, the object becomes a Tsugumomo. A Tsugumomo may literally be any object and their powers reflect this. A Tsugumomo is a type of Tsukumogami, which, as stated earlier, is an object with which the owner's spiritual powers have been embedded. Tsukumogami may be classified under two types: Tsugumomo, which take a long time to be born and as such are more mature, and Amesugi, who lack the self-awareness of the Tsugumomo and are born quickly, their only purpose being to fulfill the desires of their owner. This is an important aspect to the Amesugi that is incredibly plot relevant due to a certain twist during the Maoiga Revolt and Memories of Kunuk arcs and the Malison Cleanser aspect of the series. There is an inherent danger in Amesugi, in that if they are not destroyed by their own user, a curse backlash will occur. The backlash usually affects the user, but depending on how strong the Amesugi is, and perhaps the damage it causes, the backlash may be immense, and in the case of a certain character, put the whole city at risk. Now that you have been introduced to these basic mechanics of Tsugumomo, you can know what the story is. Well, the story of Tsugumomo is as follows. Kazuya Kagami is a middle schooler who inherited an obi from his late mother, and one day, when a Malison curse afflicts one of his classmates, his obi comes to life and protects him. His obi, named Kiriha, explains the situation to Kazuya, and they go around cleansing Kamioka, his hometown. Soon thereafter, Kazuya and Kiriha are recruited by the local god of the land, Kukuri, to be an official Malison cleanser, a Malison cleanser basically being functionally the same as a Soul Reaper in Bleach. As the story progresses, we learn more about Kazuya and Kiriha, including his mother, and in the 7th arc in the series, the Maoiga Revolt arc, a personal favorite of mine, linked to the video explaining why it's good, beware spoilers, is in the description, encapsulates the biggest theme of Tsugumomo, which brings me to my next point. The big theme of Tsugumomo is that the Tsugumomo, despite literally being tools, do not desire to be seen as such, and if they are treated as merely tools, then they revert to their original form, which is essentially a death sentence. On the side of Amesugi, and this may be a stretch, you are responsible for your own actions, and there is no rightful shortcuts in life. As Amesugi are born quickly from a strong desire, and the harm that they can carry, such as when one character received a perfume Amesugi when it backfired and had to be destroyed, the user stunk so bad no one would be around him for a week. It should be noted that said character is a massive pervert who has no luck with women yet is constantly flirting with them. Another theme of Tsugumomo seems to be growing up and discovering your sexuality, as is evidenced by the prominence of sex and the main character's ages. They have these desires and repress them. They are strong urges, and not every character is as open with their feelings and sometimes favor the same gender as opposed to desiring the opposite sex. A cool thing about Tsugumomo, that, provided is something you usually would and should expect from a work in any medium, is how it remembers previous events and even brings up earlier plot points. Not to particularly get into any specifics, but the fate of a villain who was defeated in an earlier arc has been brought up and is currently important to several ongoing plot points. The characters of Tsugumomo aren't necessarily amazing in the grand scheme of things, but for their specific function in their series they do the job well enough. Nothing too specific to say here other than I think the characters are fun, neat, and interesting enough on their own. The artwork in Tsugumomo, as I'm about to show you, is quite gorgeous, and is at times quite picturesque. Even at the start of the series the artwork was good, heavily detailed but still stylized and having a nostalgic, 2000s poppy kind of aesthetic to it, and as the series went on, while it would still obviously be the Tsugumomo that I know and love, the art would gradually shift into a rougher, more dark, detailed, and realistic style. A good example is the iconic scene of Kunuk fighting a particularly dead Amesuji, as it shows how the shading got more intense. The biggest barriers to entry to Tsugumomo that I would say would affect most people would be the intense sexual nature of the series and how it starts out a bit slow and generic. Roughly the first 4 or 5 arcs would be the slow and generic start, but luckily these arcs are not particularly long and don't overstay their welcome. They are fairly reminiscent of how Bleach was before the Soul Society arc, which depending on who you are, could make it a very enjoyable start for you or a serviceable one at best. Now, as for the sexual aspect, well the author— wait. I've seen this before. We cannot allow this here. Erase this mishead. Pink Crimson. There. Much better. There seems to love the bare female form and exploring the intricacies thereof, and with a later plot point, sex is basically an actual technique allowed under the guise of replenishing a character's spiritual powers and deepening the bond between a Tsugumomo and their user. This is a major con for the series, but the real kicker I could see for people would be the ages of some of the characters and how several Tsugumomo are lolis, so if you do plan on getting into the series, do be aware that this is an aspect that is heavily prominent. And that is why, I believe you should read Tsugumomo, and with that I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you all next time.